7 heads and 10 horns. The 7 heads had 7 crowns. Whenever the book of Revelation was written, 5 of them had already fallen. 1 was ruling then, and the next one would rule for a short time. This all goes back to Daniel, Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome. And then Rome mixed himself with Israel, 63 BC. Pompey ousted everybody that wasn't Jewish, and he allowed Israel to have their land back from any tribe could come into Israel. Then Herod the Great was uncontested king of Judea. And the iron kingdom of Rome mixed themselves with the clay. They didn't cleave to one another, they hated one another. And in that time, Christ came in the end. So your 7 kings were your Herods. They were all that succession until the destruction of the temple, until the last king. So you got Herod the Great, Herod Archelaus, Herod Philip, Herod Antipas, Herod Agrippa I, and Herod Agrippa II. There's 6. Whenever the book of Revelation was written, 5 of them had already fallen. Herod Agrippa II was ruling then, and the next one would rule for a short time. This is your John of Giscala, who took over the temple, took over Israel, fought the other unbelievers. Herod Agrippa II went to Rome, but John took over that temple, killed the Christians, fought the other unbelieving Jews, fought the Romans. We know that Israel was the beast because Jesus said that the Jews would fall by the edge of the sword and be led away captive into all nations. That's what he said to the beast. He said there'd be great wrath upon that people, the Jews. Flee Judea, don't enter back into the countries, there would be great wrath. And to the beast he said, hear what the Spirit says, they that lead into captivity shall go into captivity, they that kill with the sword must be killed with the sword. And they were given power to continue for 42 months to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle because they took over his temple. And then the Gentiles, the 10 horns. Whenever Revelation was written, they had no kingdom as of yet, but they were given power 1 hour with the beast, and they hated Mystery Babylon, and they made her desolate. The temple was left desolate, and they burned her with fire. At the end of this war, the Romans called up 10 legions, 10 commanders of soldiers, 10 legions from even out past the Euphrates to come and squash the Jews. Over 1 million Jews died on the day that the temple was destroyed, and many more before that. And when they came, they circled the city, they compassed it round, just like Jesus said whenever he walked up to that city back then. He wasn't talking about a future Israel. He walked up to that city and he wept, and he said since they didn't know the time of their visitation, the armies were going to come, compass them round, cast a trench about them, keep the men on every side, lay them even with the ground, and their children within them, and not one stone would be left upon another. And in 70 A.D., the armies of Rome came, compassed them around. All the Jews gathered from all over the world for Passover. In 70 A.D., Rome knew that they came for Passover, so they allowed them all in. They said, peace, peace, that's fine. Well, we always allow you guys to do your feasts. Come on in, guys. And he allowed them all over the world, and they all came, millions of them. And then their armies blocked them off. And then they built a wall around them and kept them in on every side. And then the blood was so high in that wall. Imagine this wall being built, and the bodies, they couldn't even touch the floor. So the Romans killed so many that they couldn't even touch the floor inside this wall. And then blood was coming out of the wall like a wine press. And she was left desolate in 1 hour and burned with fire. Her precious stones were thrown down. The apostles and prophets rejoiced over her. In her was found all the blood of the prophets that were slain upon the earth. But Christians will not tell the truth that this already happened. That whole kingdom, whenever Israel became a nation again, until it was destroyed, had your 6 Herodian kings, and then you had John of Giscala, the last king. And the book of Revelation was written whenever 5 of them had already fallen. 1 was ruling then. The next one would rule for a short time. Jesus sent unto the churches to testify unto them the things which must shortly come to pass. He was coming quickly, his reward was with him. I have hundreds of videos explaining the Bible the right way, the way that God says. Give me a follow.